Will Nvidia hit $1,000, or are we going to see more of a corrective move going forward as we are holding up right now above the 20? That's what we're going to get into today as we do some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta going into the rest of this. Going to be a very important point for Nvidia to hold up, so it's good to get some analysis. Let's get right into it. And as of right now, going into the SPY, we're seeing that we're still holding above the 20-day moving average. Once we start to lose this 20-day moving average, we can be a little bit more worried, a little bit more open to a further pullback, some kind of correction even. But as we are holding up in these areas, we have to pay attention to these shorter time frames. So this 2-hour, what we were mainly watching today, seeing if this is able to curl up into positive territory. And we're seeing that early on in the week. We tested the bottom side of our weekly expected move. That's why we use these. They're very, very important. This is just all the options market had priced in for the entire week. We got there right on a Monday, and boom, we see that reaction come in. So that's what we expect. We expect some support from there. And guess what? Our 20-day moving average is right there as well. So very, very cool to see. And now we can look into tomorrow. We can see what the daily expected moves are. We have 523.07 to the upside and 515.75 to the downside. So the thing about this here, we haven't gotten that crossing of the MACD to really give us that positivity. Now, these have shifted slightly upward, and I would think that with this drawing back down, we can pull up a 30-minute at this point as that 2-hour hasn't crossed. And we can see this 30-minute looks like it wants to cross, but we're getting some buying back up at the end of the day. So we have to pay attention to this. There's some charts that we're going to get into. Actually, I might even pull up Google at the end here just to show you guys why there's a way up, there's a way down. Some stocks are showing you, hey, we have some upside here. Some are saying, hey, we might be tapped out. So as we're seeing a 30-minute curl down near the center line, right? What do? We build up towards that center line and then we cross back down. So what we'd have to pay attention to is this going to be a higher low at this point, or are we going to see this break down and maybe get some kind of double bottom before that wants to happen? At this point, we could see some positivity come in if we kind of solidify this as a higher low, not able to cross on this MACD and able to go positive. That's when the real positivity should come in. How I believe that we could end up seeing this extend into next week, maybe even all the way into CPI, is if we do get a solid reaction by the end of the week, come up into this area here, and then get some kind of consolidation right before CPI, we could be getting a left head and right shoulder right before the CPI, which would be very, very interesting. I think a lot of people will expect the CPI to be bad. So as long as we are open to it being good news, we can continue to trade like water like we've been doing on this channel. The Qs looking forward, similar thing, right? Pretty much the same things. Now the Qs aren't testing their 20. Their 20 is a little bit lower, or actually it broke through its 20. But right now it's trading in between. So what we want to pay attention to here, similar thing to the SPY, able to curl over, see if that wants to go to the bottom side of our daily expected move, but just paying attention to if this MACD crosses down, maybe we get some kind of divergence before we actually see a more sustainable bounce. Now, the thing about the Qs going forward, I want you to pay attention to these levels tomorrow. We'll be paying attention to it on our stock market live show in the morning. So join us tomorrow morning, 446.30 to the upside and 437.82 to the downside. So I overall was stating how if we consolidated right here, that daily expected move right above us, it's actually good news. Okay, so we could be doing some kind of consolidation right now in order to bust through a very important level. We do have that resistance up here from this gap right above us. So if we're able to extend higher, even gap above that, that would be a good sign. But we have to be open to downside as this MACD looks like it wants to curl down in negative territory. So if this can solidify itself by kind of curling back up and going positive, then we can say, okay, now we have some structure to head higher, right? But if it wants to curl over right now, we might be looking for a divergence, and maybe we just have to be a little bit patient for the next big move to come. So pay attention to that going forward, but it does look like we have some consolidation in here that might lead to lower prices and then a reaction up. So we want to pay attention to that as we are seeing that curl over down here on the MACD. So if we do get excited early on in the day and get outside of this daily expected move early on in the day, remember you have that 68% chance for a bounce, and maybe we bounce into the Friday close. That would be very, very interesting. So going forward, we just want to trade like water. We want to be open to it going either direction at this point, taking our profit a little bit earlier in this wonky price action. Apple looking a lot like the SPY and the Qs on the 30-minute, right? We're seeing that Apple wanting to roll down at this point, right? Really completing this cup, getting a handle, but now sinking a little bit lower. Is that going to curl down in negative territory? We haven't seen that yet, but I can tell you the weekly expected move that we give out on Patreon. And if you want the weekly expected moves for Apple and all the individual stocks we cover, go down in the link in the description for Patreon. Okay, join that Patreon. Good time to join. Very good tool to have for these individual stocks. And Apple does have a little bit more downside here, so we could be seeing some kind of reaction down to get another point of reference, a nearest divergence right here. So we just have to be open to that happening. Now, this hasn't crossed yet. We broke through a little bit. Now we might just do a quick retest and be off to the races. So that's something to pay attention to. We're kind of grabbing liquidity right in this area here. So maybe we want to just start heading higher. How I'm going to know if this is really wanting to head higher, I got to see some steam behind this 20. I got to see some steam behind it, see that thing go positive. Once this thing goes positive, we can really see a good move. So if we struggle to go up, and then we go positive a lot of the time, that's when the big move is going to come. So pay attention to that going forward. Tesla, wanted to pay attention as well to that 2-hour MACD rolling up into positive territory. Good shot that we get some kind of retest. Maybe we even want to go retest 180.92, a very, very important level. But will this just create that left head and right shoulder for Tesla to actually break down further? So what we're going to pay attention to over the next few days is if this 2 hour is able to roll up, does this just curl back down pretty quickly into negative territory? Then it might actually take out this low. We might actually take out this level and head lower for Tesla, so be very, very cautious with this. But if we want to build up over time, it's very simple. We're going to see this, get some structure, see it again. And we're just going to watch this MACD continue to curl up in positive territory above this center line here for Tesla. Amazon, one thing that I wanted to point out here, this 2 hour divergence formed as of today, but it has not confirmed. Right now, there is some upside potential based on our weekly ranges we give out on Patreon. We have a little bit of upside left, but you're noticing all these divergences on the 2 hour are really starting to add up, and we're getting the wonky price action, right? We've been doing pretty good with Amazon going forward, but we want to pay attention to any kind of signals. This 30-minute, you don't necessarily have a divergence in the nearest price action. You do from this high over here. So maybe we want to, push a little bit higher. Maybe we want to consolidate for tomorrow, start to push up, and then get another point higher and get that divergence up in this area in the nearest price action. Amazon looking pretty strong. I just wanted to show you the daily at this point, getting a green bar on the histogram down here, telling us, hey, there is upside potential. So if I was trading Amazon this week, if I had any upside call or anything like that, I would be paying attention to my weekly expected move. That's really where I would start to think about taking some off the table before close on Friday. And here we go with NVIDIA. NVIDIA here, you see we're kind of forming some kind of continuation triangle. So this could eat up a bunch of time in April if we just continue to get tight and then we see an explosive move. But that move could come sooner than you think, right? We could just go up right now if we look at that 2 hour. But I just wanted to point out on the daily, right, we have the weekly ranges for this. We have the monthly ranges, which is somewhere above 1,000. So pay attention to the monthly range in the month of April. But right now, we're just seeing if we can get some support around this 20-day moving average, seeing if we can see some support there. Because as of right now, we're starting to fade again below the 5. And if we keep riding that down, well, these Bollinger Bands are tight and we can see an explosive move. So if we break to the upside, some positivity here in this consolidation as of right now. If we break to the downside, could mean that things are going to get a little bit worse for NVIDIA. So what we were paying attention to live was seeing if this 2 hour could curl up. It really looked like it wanted to. And we're seeing it fall back down. So we're going to look at a 30-minute, but we haven't been able to curl up this MACD yet, get into positive territory, right? So we have to be patient until that happens. We can take little nibbles and things like that. But if you are taking a nibble and you saw this at the end of the day, you might want to be out of any upside to for NVIDIA, because this crossing over could lead to us heading to lower prices, right? We could head down to maybe test this area down here. Maybe we break it, hit 855, something like that. We wick out. There's a lot that can happen, but you could set up another divergence right here. So as of right now, you have one single divergence in this area right here. Pretty good one. Now maybe we set up another one that gets us into positive territory. So if we're able to curl down into this area, maybe even double bottom and see that curl back up, good sign that we're going to head higher for NVIDIA. Would be interesting to see if we just see that positivity out of the gate tomorrow. AMD, this thing looking pretty strong, honestly, on the day. Pretty good move up. Now we're seeing us kind of complete that cup at the top here where that gap started and get some kind of handle, some kind of consolidation here. So we need that thing to really go positive. It's in positive territory, but we haven't been able to break through this very important level. This level of about 182.50, very, very important. As you are seeing the MACD curl down, well, we can go into negative territory. So we could start to break the other way. So I would be very cautious with this low over the next couple of days. And then also I'd be paying attention to my 2 hour, which is, all right, there we go. And we have the 2 hour up now. So the 2 hour, I just want you to notice this difference between the MACD and the actual price action. This isn't a solid divergence, but you could say, hey, this is a sign that momentum is dying out at this point. So if we're able to go positive, right, if we get that positivity out the gate tomorrow, we could be seeing a good move from AMD going on into tomorrow. So pay attention to that. And what we want to do is if we see a strong move tomorrow, just be a little bit cautious towards this gap fill. On Friday, we do get unemployment numbers and things like that. So if that comes out, we have to see how the market reacts. So if we start to form divergences before Friday and we get outside of a lot of those risk ranges like we're seeing on different stocks, even Meta, right? Meta, we can look at this real quick. Looking like it wants to break out of some consolidation to the upside, but this green line here is what we give out on Patreon. So the upside, you're outside of that at this point. So if you do see some kind of move up, maybe that's a fake out. Maybe you get some kind of divergence and we're able to roll that back down because you do land back within this zone 68% of the time. So if we see that positivity tomorrow, maybe that doesn't last, right? So we have to pay attention to any kind of signals we're seeing at the end of the day as we do get some important data from what data is it? The unemployment data and the jobs reports, right? So we have to pay attention to all those types of things. Microsoft here, just wanted to show you it looks very similar. It's sitting right at that center line, consolidating sideways at this point. Is this going to break through here and head lower, break through this wedge? Or are we going to see a break to the upside? The good part about Microsoft here, it would be a great trade if you burst it up to here. If we came up here really quickly before Friday or on Friday, and then we see that divergence form up here, good point to pay attention because you'd be outside of that weekly expected move. We gave you the Microsoft weekly expected move for this week, and that'd be 429.91. Notice it's right up towards this high. So if we see that extend higher, we could create a divergence before the week is over. That's what we'll be paying attention to on our stock market live show. Now, Google, going forward, I wanted to show you how the 2 hour did confirm this divergence, but you're seeing that curl back up one more time. So now we just want to find an entry point. Maybe the 30-minute gives us that entry. Maybe we're just going to see this thing drop off, but we do have some room to the upside here because we're not really overbought. Now, this is all the options market has priced in for Google, right? 155.89, I believe. 159.89. To the upside here, and we're able to break above that at this point. So is this just going to be it? I mean, is this just like a double top in here, or are we going to see a sudden move up and get a solid looking divergence right here by negative territory before next week? I think if Google does this move, it is very, very a very good signal that we're going to see lower prices throughout April as momentum is dying out before some big events like unemployment numbers, non-farm payroll, and also going into next week with CPI. So a lot of things to pay attention to with stocks. You have some like Apple and Tesla saying, hey, we could curl up. And you have some that are saying, hey, yeah, we could curl up, but this is all we expected for this entire week and we're already there. So will that just drop off? That's what we'll have to pay attention to throughout this week. So the VIX here, you're seeing that start to drop off on the 30-minute. We just pointed out, look at this, little bit of a double top here. But if the 2 hour curls over, it might go down even further. Look at that, it's curled over. We're getting a lot of rejection here. We're not closing above the 200 on the daily scale. So what can happen here? Well, this could be a brief retest and we just see that volatility continue. Or maybe this wants to roll down and fill this gap. And if we fill that gap down here, we might just create a divergence right by positive territory. So if we zoom out on this MACD, we can see there's a slight tiny divergence down here. That told us we called this as a double bottom because the SPY was double topping at the same time. Well, now we're seeing the SPY looks like it wants to curl up and go positive while the VIX already confirmed it wants to at least pull back a little bit. Still in positive territory, so if this just curls back up, we can see that volatility come in. But if it wants to break down, we could be seeing a triple bottom with that divergence really, really close to positive territory, right? We do something like that really briefly. That would be maybe some telling information to keep in mind for volatility coming back into this market. The last thing I just wanted to point out, TLT, right, the opposite of the 10-year yield here. Just wanted to point out there is this 2 hour divergence. We're outside of, we were outside of the monthly, we were outside of the weekly at the same time. So this looks like a decent setup for TLT to go for a run here. That would mean that the 10-year yield is going to back off, and that could be a good thing for stocks. So I want you to be open to that for the next few days. The fact that the 10-year could actually drop off, and that might be good news for stocks. And then lastly, the dollar here dropping off pretty significantly. So somebody is buying these dips, and we're not really seeing the dollar want to turn around as of right now. So pay attention to that kind of stuff, because even though those are some crash signals, we could be getting one more push higher, one more bull trap before some bad news with CPI, some bad news with non-farm. We just have to pay attention to those rocks, find which way the stream is going, and go with it. The main takeaway here is, will Nvidia hit 1,000? It very well could, because we are seeing volatility drop off. We're seeing the Qs want to curl up in a positive territory. We're not really breaking through the 20-day moving average at this point. So we could be seeing some further upside here. I just want that to be on your mind. Now, if we see those setups, we're going to give those out on Patreon. Sorry, my camera cut out, but we're going to be giving those out on Patreon. So make sure to go down in the description and think about joining that Patreon down there. And then, as always, I just wish you guys have all the luck in the world. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have all the luck in the world trading tomorrow. And I hope you have a good night. Peace.